Hi folks, do we have a show for you today? We have a retired Chief Petty Officer, Corpsman, did 25 years in the Navy, multiple tours with the Marine Corps, spent his last 13 years on submarines, as an independent duty corpsman. I mean, this guy is the cream of the crop. So we'll be shooting that here in a little bit. Also, don't forget we have our poker run coming up August 9th. So if you are in the northern Indiana, southern Michigan area, please come on out. We're gonna have food, music, a bunch of stops, and a good time will be had by all. So make sure you come out for that. Also, we have a blowout party in October, so that'll be coming up. But yeah, stay tuned, and we're gonna get ready to get him on the computer. It's gonna be a remote podcast as he's in Tennessee. So we look forward to talking to him today, and stand by. Semper Fi, out. Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of Marine Riders Michiana. We have a guest on today. It's an honor to have Dale Lyons, retired Chief Petty Officer. Did multiple tours, like I said before, with the Marine Corps, and spent his last 13 years with submarines. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Chief, it's an honor to have you on here today, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
Pleasure to meet you up at National.
Yeah, we, the little bit background, him and I met at the Nationals rally. We were up in South Haven at Captain Tony's.
Is that what that place was called?
Yeah.
I just kept calling it the bar that's, a bar area next to a river and a drawbridge. I had no idea what the name of the place was.
Yeah, we started talking up there, man, and hit it off, and I asked him if he'd come on here, and I was pleasantly surprised when he said that he would. So let's get into it, man. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Parents, sisters, brothers?
You're freezing up on my end a little bit. Well, your feed is freezing up a little bit on mine, so I missed your whole question.
Okay. Your childhood. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? Parents, brothers, sisters?
Yeah, I was born in East Tennessee in a town called Kingsport. And then I'm second born of a set of identical twins. So I actually have an identical twin brother named David, who's 11 minutes older than I am.
Oh, really?
And anyway, so after we were first born, when we were infants, half of our family lived down here in Tennessee, and the other half lived in northwestern Indiana. And so we moved up to Indiana when we were about 1.5, 2. Mm-hmm. And we lived there for about 9 years. So we started school there, went all the way up to 5th grade. And then the whole world kind of went sideways. Both of my parents worked at the steel mill in Gary, Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
And back then they literally closed the mill and they put 10,000 people out of work in a single day. And so during 5th grade and 6th grade, we moved around a lot. We went to 3 different 5th grades in 3 different states, and 3 different 6th grades in 3 different states. And finally ended up coming back down to Tennessee to where I was born, and we stayed until I graduated high school. And then joined the Navy in my senior year in high school and went on active duty a month after graduation.
Okay. What kind of student were you? Were you a good student, or?
I was a lazy student. I didn't do bad. I'll tell you one thing. Being in the military did one thing that I'm extremely grateful for. I mean, I'm extremely grateful for a lot, but this one particular thing is paramount to my entire existence as a human being. And that was simply that how you did in your schools or in your job had a direct impact and a reflection on your career success.
Sure. Yeah.
So when you had to actually apply yourself, I was really good.
Sure.
I didn't have any problems. Mm-hmm. And I actually excelled in every Navy school that I ever went to. So
excellent. We'll get into
it. It was pretty good. But
did you play any sports in high school?
Yeah, I played baseball, basketball, and football all the way up through middle school, and then baseball and football, because it's like my brother and I, we were always tall growing up, but as soon as like 8th grade was over, we grew like a half inch to an inch after that. And everybody else just kept going. So it was like a early bloomer, I guess, you know, it was like full grown, at least height-wise, by the time I was started high school, and just never really grew after that. But so basketball was kind of out, except for like pickup games and stuff like that, or, you know, afterwards. But baseball and football were always, you know, something that we really did a lot. My brother was always better at me than football. He was an inside linebacker, and you know, he liked to mess people up. Nice. We've always had nicknames. It's like I'm the good twin, and he's the evil twin. Oh yeah. And we have T-shirts. His motorcycle license plate is EVLTWN.
Nice. So okay, so you said you joined the Navy when you were a senior in high school?
I joined the Navy because I knew I wasn't intellectually prepared for college. At that point, I had no idea that all you really got to do is listen, pay attention, and apply yourself, and you know you'll do okay. My inspiration to join the Navy, like for you know why I chose you know the Navy over the other branches, is honestly, at the time, was around when that movie Navy SEALs came out. Remember that old thing with Michael Biehn and what's his name? Well, it doesn't matter. Charlie Sheen, that's his name, yeah. But anyway, so I thought that looked cool. But then also, one of my football coaches was a Navy SEAL in Vietnam. So you would never know by looking at the guy. He was really quiet, and he was, you know, really reserved and stuff. And one day my guidance counselor he was my guidance counselor. So that's one thing that helped us out. He asked me if I thought about what I wanted to do, you know, after high school. And I told him that, well, I really don't have any money for college. And, you know, I'm not a really disciplined student anyway. I'd probably just go and, you know, I was at least aware of myself then enough to know that if I went to college, I'd probably just party my ass off and end up in debt.
Right.
So he said, if he asked me if I had any other ideas or thoughts, and I was like, well, you know, I was thinking about joining the military. You know, that way I can actually get money for school, maybe travel around and see the world a little bit. Because, yeah, I had never even seen the ocean until after I graduated boot camp.
My father was a Marine, and he did, I think it was 3 tours in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And then
your father?
Yeah, my father. He was a Marine. He retired as not retired, but you know, after Vietnam and his service there, I think he got out as a sergeant or staff sergeant. I think he was a staff sergeant. Mm-hmm. But and then I had you know an uncle that was in the army in Vietnam. But
so you had family. You had family that was prior military.
Just those 2 though. And my mom came from a very large family. She had 7 brothers and 6 sisters, so like the middle child. And she was an identical twin herself, so
oh wow.
Weird, you know, mom and Aunt Connie, you know, and then me and David. Mm-hmm. But as far as like, you know, military, you know, exposure when I was growing up, none. I didn't have anybody that was on active duty. I had a cousin. My cousin Henry joined the Marine Corps, but I mean, he's much older than I am, so I mean, he was already graduating high school and joining the Marines before I even got out of elementary school.
Okay.
But as far as like, you know, exposure to military that like caused me to join, no. It was basically just I knew that I didn't have the money to go to school, nor did I have the discipline as a student to go to school. You know, right out of high school. So joining the military I thought would be a great idea, so that way I can get some travel, you know, see the world a little bit, get out of my little, you know, my little southeastern, you know, part of Tennessee, or northeastern part of Tennessee, and actually get out and see the world some. So
sure.
I joined the Navy.
Right, and so you joined July 17th of 91?
Yep.
Is that correct? And then you went to boot.
That is. Yeah, I went to boot camp in Orlando, Florida,
How was your
You know,
boot camp?
when that still existed.
How was your boot camp experience, Chief?
I got out of shape in boot camp, and the thing was like I had, you know, back then they were called company commanders. They weren't called recruit division commander, whatever they're called now. But I had one that was a chief, and then one that was a second class bosun mate. And because it was Orlando, we had women down there, and because that's where all of the females went to boot camp at that time, was Orlando. And then everybody else, I mean, there were still guys that went there, but so I went to Orlando for boot camp, and while I was there, like just the first couple weeks in, the chief, the male, because we had a male and a female company commander. The chief was back then an IC seaman. He was an interior communications chief, which was a submarine rate.
Okay.
I didn't even give any thought about subs back then at all. You know, it was just some weird thing you saw in movies.
Right.
When I joined the military, I joined in the Dive Farer program, right? So it was a program that was specifically, you know, made for SEALs and diver candidates.
Okay.
Now, your A school was a part of the program. So you had to be able to, you know, pass the test to actually get into BUD or the diving program in order to continue on to your A school for your rating assignment. Well, like I said, in boot camp, I got out of shape, and so whenever we went and we did the test, you passed everything except for the pull-ups part. You know, doing the swim, the push-ups, the sit-ups, the pull-ups, and the run. Go, and it was always the same. First test, because you got 3 chances to take it. So this is a long story, so I'll just try to, you know, nip it a little bit.
Okay.
But long story short, the day of our second, because it was me and one other guy in my company that were in this program, the day of our second test, we were also having an inspection that day. And so our company commander told us, well, don't worry about that test, we'll get it rescheduled for you, just get ready for the inspection. I was like, well, okay, because, you know, you're there for the inspection and everything was fine and no big deal. And then when we...
Yeah, after that, did you go to, it says here you went to apprenticeship training and in Orlando as well before you went to your first duty station?
Yeah, everything, apprenticeship training and everything was done in Orlando. So I went to Orlando, I went to boot camp on July 17th.
Yeah.
Graduated boot camp enough actually on my 19th birthday. But,
okay.
And then just literally went from one building to another building to, apprenticeship training.
Training, your first duty assignment was an undesignated striker, naval small craft construction and technical training down in Panama, right?
Yeah.
You went to Panama City, Panama.
Mm-hmm. Down in Central America, yeah.
That was your first. How did you get that? I mean, was that on a dream sheet or?
No, it was really just luck, I guess. Like the funny thing is, like when I got to apprenticeship training, they told us the very first day is the number one student in the class gets their choice of A school. So I was like, well, because I was already had orders to hospital corpsman A school, but they got taken away before I got done with boot camp. Because I always knew I wanted to be a corpsman. I always knew that that's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And then, so I thought, great. If I graduated as the number one student in the class, I could still go on to Corps school. And so I put in a great effort, and I literally only missed one question throughout the entire course. And I finished as the number one student. And so I was happy. I thought, yeah, I'm going to get my orders to Corps school. But evidently the number two student got meritoriously promoted to the next grade. And the guy that came in second was 24 years old, already had some college, and was already an E3 and could not be promoted to E4. So they gave him the number one thing, the A school, and they gave me E2. And I told them, I don't care about E2. I want to go to core school. And they said, well, sorry, that's just the way things go.
Yeah.
And so to Panama, and I thought, this is great. You know, it's because I had done a report on the building of the Panama Canal when I was in high school, so I was kind of familiar with it, and I guess that's probably why I picked it off the list. You know, it was like, wow, you know, you can go see one of the, you know, the newer wonders of the world, right? So plus, you know, you can go and learn another language, because I always figured if I get stationed in another country, it's like if you have the chance, why not go ahead and learn to speak the language at whatever country you're in? So I did. I'm pretty fluent in Spanish, so that's a pretty nice thing. That's how I got to Panama. I was just getting screwed again, really, and then getting to go to Panama instead.
So tell me some of the things that you did while you were in Panama. You told me before that you guys river rafting, crafting, small boats,
all different kinds of stuff, actually. Yeah, the command was called Naval Small Craft Instruction and Technical Training School, or NAVSTIA for short. It was located on the Rodman Naval Base in Panama. What it did is it taught small boat tactics, riverine warfare, open water takedown and seizure, open water navigation, riverine warfare, weapons and tactics, and all kinds of stuff. And what we did is that we taught all the countries, the navies and police forces through Central and South America and the Caribbean nations. So we had 5 different classes every year, and, you know, just from a mix of students from all those different countries. And everybody at the command was a natural Spanish speaker, or Portuguese, because we had people that came from Brazil, so you know, they spoke Portuguese. And then of course the people from the island nations in the Caribbean, and a lot of them spoke English, but with the accent takes a little bit to get used to, right? Before you could just full on understand everything. It was easier to understand at first. It was easier to understand the Spanish speakers than it was for them, because you know that the language is the same. It's just the pronunciation of different word usage and stuff was a little bit. But once you got used to it, you were fine. And so we did a lot of different things. So we would go out to sea. So, like, you know, we had 100-foot boat, we had 3 50-foot boats, 4 36-foot boats, and like 8 between 24 to 22 feet boats. For like the riverine boats, the fast boats, they were the 24 to 20 feet, and then, you know, 36, 50, and 100 foot was to go, you know, out into the ocean doing those kinds of things. So we would go, and we would spend, you know, 2 weeks at a time out to sea, and then we would spend another week to 10 days at a time in the jungle on the other side of Panama, by the Sagres River, which is just a natural preserve. So that was a lot of fun, because you do a lot of different things. And I already relayed some of the, you know, the little stories that were, you know, that happened during those things. So
yeah, you told me about. So you guys actually went out and trained in the jungle in Panama, right? Right. Yeah. And on one of those times, you had watch, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was the.
Tell our viewers about the cat.
Yeah, the cat. Yeah, so.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's got 2 seasons. It's either rainy or it's dry. And during the rainy season, it rains like 5 and 6 times a day, every day. It's torrential rain, not just light rain, but like you can't see anything in front of your face during the daytime. It's like we used to be able to sit on the pier and see the rain coming and watch Panama City disappear in the distance.
Yeah.
And watch everything on the other side of the canal disappear. I mean, you know it's right there, but the rain is so heavy that you can't see anything through it.
Right.
But so anyway, it was. I had the last watch, the mid watch. So I had from midnight until 6 a.m. or about 4:30 is when I had to wake everybody up. But it was pitch black. It was raining. It was terrible. At least it wasn't cold. That's one thing you never had to worry about in Panama was cold. It was never cold.
Right.
But so
I remember everybody's in the big tent, they're sleeping, it's just me, and I'm just walking around the pier and the tents, and then our command tent where we had all the equipment and stuff, you know, just, there's nobody there.
Right.
There's nobody at the point where we're at. The road is from one side, so if anybody's driving in, you're gonna see way before they get there.
Uh-huh.
But when you first go to Panama, when you're doing the jungle training, the very first thing they have you do when you get on to the base is they send you through the base zoo. And that's basically what they call it. But really all it is just a wildlife familiarization tour kind of thing. So you would go in, and it would basically be like a zoo. Every animal that's in the zoo is an animal that lives wild. You know, not tame, not controlled. They're wild in the jungle that we're actually going to be training in. So you've got, you know, snakes with heads as big as 2 fists put side by side.
Right.
They're like 30 feet long. It's ridiculous. Like, you can't put your hands around the snake. But then they have Cayman alligators, jaguars, panthers, monkeys, all kinds of stuff. So anything and everything you can think of being in a triple canopy, you know, rainforest, that's what we had. So anyway, that's just to let you know that there's wildlife here. It's not like a reserve that's cleared out.
Sure.
So one night, we're having a terrible rainstorm. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I hear something moving around in the bush behind the tent where we're all set up, because it's basically have like a little cleared out area. We have the pier on one side, and it's just a small, tiny little thing that just, you know, tie the boats up at. And then it comes around, and then there's the outlet to the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
And so, I mean, it's right there. I mean, it's just, we're right there on the point. And anyway, so I'm hearing something moving around, and it's not small. You know, it sounds like it's something big moving in the trees. And the flashlight that I have is, you know, it's got the red lens on it, because, you know, that's what you do to keep your night vision. But in the rainstorm, the red lens flashlight isn't doing anything to help me see at all.
Right.
So I'm standing over there, and I'm about 10 feet away from the line of the jungle, you know, where the jungle starts. And so to my right is the big tent where everybody's sleeping, and then to the left of me is like the tent where our generator's at, and our stuff where we're doing all of our planning and the equipment, the radios and all that stuff is. And I'm trying to take off the lens cover for the red lens of the light. And as I'm doing this, you know, every now and then lightning will flash and it lights up everything. And you can see everything like it's daylight, and then it's all black and your night vision's gone again, right?
Right.
And so I'm standing there and I'm trying to take this lens off. And all of a sudden the lightning flashes, and a black panther walks out of the jungle and is standing about 5 feet away from me.
Holy
and I
shit.
am just like, oh shit, because I'm not armed.
You got a flashlight.
The only weapon I have a flashlight and a dagger. And the dagger is attached to my cami bottoms on my belt. So here I am, standing here with this flashlight that's really doing nothing for any kind of penetration. My night vision is gone, but I know that there's a wild animal that can eat me that's 5 feet away, and I am just kind of like frozen, but I'm trying to pull up my Gumby suit top, and then shove my hand down my Gumby suit bottoms, and then pull up my cami top blouse, and then find my dagger and pull that out, right? All the time I'm doing that, and the time I'm waiting for this damn cat, because the lightning flashes again, and it's still there. It hasn't moved, it's just looking at me, it's above my knee height, it's not a small cat. And so I'm just looking at this, and I finally get my dagger out, and I'm just standing there. And I know there's nothing I can do except for that when it jumps on me, start stabbing, right?
Right.
And so I'm literally not moving. I'm standing there. I can't see anything. And then lightning flashes. And then, as the lightning's flashing, the thing had turned around and started walking back into the jungle.
Thank God.
I know, right? And I'm still anchored to my spot because it's still pitch black. Once the lightning's gone, I don't know. I do know they started moving back into the jungle, and then I can start hearing it moving in the trees again. So once I heard that it was moving through the trees again, but it wasn't going into the forest. It was still just hanging out like right around the front. So I go into the tent, and we have a chief gunner's mate, Chief Torres.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm like, Chief. And he's like, yeah. Well, I was like, hey, a panther just walked out of the jungle. I need a weapon. And he went, 45, backpack, undercover. And he goes back to sleep. So I pull his backpack out from underneath his cot where he's sleeping, and I find the 45, the magazine, because, he didn't have it loaded. So, the weapon and then the magazine. All right, now I'm armed. I've got it. I've got my hand on it. I'm ready to go if anything happens, and I go back out into the rain. So the sound kind of went away, and it kind of, didn't come back out, and I was thankful and glad. And so when it came time for me to wake everybody up in the morning, I'm turning on the generator and flipping on the lights and going in and letting everybody know what time it was. And so as people start getting up and they're asking, hey, I was like, man, you guys aren't going to believe it. And so I told them what happened. Right? And every single person in my command all clowned me. They were all acting like I had fallen asleep on watch and had a wild dream. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. And then all of a sudden you hear somebody yelling in the tent, and it's Chief Torres. And he storms out and he goes, where the fuck is my weapon? And so I said, I've got it right here, Chief. And he's like, why you got my weapon? I was like, I told you last night when the Panther walked out. And he went, what? Man, give me my damn weapon. And so I cleared it and I handed them the weapon and the magazine. And everybody's just laughing at me. They're clowning at me, telling me that I fell asleep. It's all right, we're not going to get you into trouble and stuff. And then about, 3 or 4 hours later, around, 10 o'clock in the morning or so, game wardens from the base drive up into our position, our pods, in one of their trucks. And they get out, so, the CEO and the XO and the command master chief and, other people just start to walk that way. And they get out and they're saying, hey, we got a report from a couple of the other units in the area doing some training that a Panther walked into their pods last night. And at that point, every single person in my command turned around and looked at me, and I just flipped them all off. Fuck you. And so the end of the story is that nobody stood watch unarmed from that point on.
Right. And they didn't believe you because you were such a junior boot, right?
Yeah, I was 19. I'd been at the command for like 2 months. It was my first time being out in the jungle, and I'm the guy that has a Panther walk out of the jungle on you. So yeah, talk about pucker factor. Did I think I was going to die? Yeah. Wow. I thought it was going to be absolutely terrible. I thought I was going to be eaten alive before somebody could get out of the rack to find out what the hell's going on.
Wow. That's great stuff. Just
stared at me for a few minutes and then just turned around. I guess I wasn't interesting. Or maybe you just realized that, man, that's a big rubber suit I'd have to go through. I have no idea. But yeah, that was something that happened to me that was like, holy shit.
Wow. So that's a pretty awesome story there, Chief. So listen, after 94, you finally get to Corpsman School.
Yeah, January of 94 is when I left. I went to, that's another funny thing, is like when I put in my request sheet to go to hospital corps school at my first command, every single person in my command disapproved it, except the CO and the XO, which are the only person that matters is the CO, right?
Right.
So when I went back around to my command and I'm asking, I was like, why did you all disapprove my chit? I mean, you all know I wanted to be a corpsman. And they just basically said, it was like, well, you do really good. We just were over here to start, Ensign and a bosun, just stay here. And I'm like, well, that would have been great for you all, but what about me? So anyway, I ended up finally getting to go to hospital corps school. And because I had been eligible for advancement since, I think it was September of 1993.
Okay.
I didn't take my first advancement exam until September of 1992 is when I was eligible. But I didn't get to take my first advancement exam until my fourth eligible cycle. So it was like years behind as far as like, getting promotions and stuff. So I just kept getting passed over because my command kept asking me, "Is it sure you don't want to take the rating test? At least become rated. You can be an E4. You still try to cross rate." And I was like, "No, I'll just stick to my guns." So I did, and it took me about 3 years behind my peer group in the Navy as far as like promotions and advancements and stuff like that. But it would have been better than becoming an engineman and all of a sudden them saying hey, we need enginemen, we can't let you strike to corpsman.
Right.
So I just stayed. So yeah, I finally got to Corps School in San Diego in January of '94.
And basic corpsman school is like what, 3-4 months long? It's not much.
4 months.
4 months.
4 months.
Yeah.
16 weeks.
Yeah. And then following that, you immediately went to FMF school?
Yep, I went to Field Medical Service School. That's what EMTV. I think it's called EMTV now. I'm not sure. I don't know what the hell it's called now.
Right.
But it used to be called, Field Medical Service School.
Right.
But when I was in A school at Hospital Corpsman A school, I think I had 82 people in my class.
Uh-huh.
And they came and they said that they have 8 billets, 8 positions to go to to field med school, and they asked how many who would like to go, and like every single guy and like half the girls in the class all volunteered, and so it was like all right, well, there's no guarantee that I was going to be able to get to go to that, but when Corps School finished, I was one of the 8 that got the orders to go to field med school. So I graduated Corps School in April of '94, and then went straight up to Camp Pendleton. And I remember we took the bus. We graduated Corps School, and the duty station gives us a ride to the bus station and just drops us off with our orders. And so we get on a bus to go to Camp Pendleton, and then we have somebody else pick us up at the bus station at Camp Pendleton and just take us onto the base. And went to field med school and had a great time. Absolutely loved it. The corpsman that I was stationed with, the second class, Doc Brown was his name.
Yeah.
The guy that in Panama, when he told me all about the Fleet Marine Force, he was actually stationed in Beirut in '82 when the bombing happened. So I got to hear firsthand accounts of that. And I was asking, I was like, why in the world were you there? And I said, that was the Marine Corps. And he went, yeah, well, that's when I was taught, because I had no idea before then. I wasn't a corpsman yet. I was still a deck seaman. So, he's the one that told me, the Marine Corps does not have their own Navy and medical personnel, and so they use Navy corpsmen, but you've got to be an FMF corpsman. You've got to go to Field Medical Service School, in order to do that. And so when I finally got orders to Corps School, and, he said, he goes, hey, man, if you get a chance, go to Field Med School, you'll like it. And he was right. Yeah.
Yeah, I went through that one as well. Were you in Camp Delmar in Pendleton?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I was at.
That 21 area?
Yeah, I was there too. So you finish FMF school in June of '94, and then you go on to Great Lakes?
Yeah, because way back then, whenever you graduated hospital corps school, you had to go to all the corpsmen that graduated had to go to a hospital corpsman billet at either a hospital or a clinic for at least 18 months. It was called your hospital corpsman follow-on tour.
Okay.
So I went to Great Lakes, and I was stationed at the Recruit in Processing Clinic. And at the time, when I first got there, it was just all men. It was all males. But just a few months after I got there is when they started integrating the females to come to Great Lakes, because they were getting ready to shut down
Orlando,
because they had already shut down San Diego at the very last class to graduate in 1993 was the last boot camp company to go through San Diego. I had a couple of guys in my core school class that were in the last group that go through there. But so they closed San Diego while I was actually at core school in San Diego, and then when I was stationed in Great Lakes, about 4 or 5 months into it, I don't remember exactly what time, but that's when they first started having women come. The females come to the boot camp in Great Lakes.
Yeah.
So it was a total change because it wasn't designed that way. I mean, designed. I mean, all it is your stuff. Yep. So every single person that came into the Navy from the end of June of '94 until October of '95, I saw. At first, I was just one of the guys that gave you all your shots when you went through that little.
Sure.
You walked.
Oh yeah.
You get the line. You're getting shot both arms at the same time.
Right.
Then you go into another room and you get your blood drawn for all of your stuff for your physicals and things and all that stuff, and then you do your eye exams, your audiograms, and your actual physicals and stuff like that in special programs. But yeah, I worked at that clinic, which was absolutely dreadful. I mean, it was great. You get lots of experience with venipuncture and
right,
health records and all that other stuff. But
yeah, basic corpsman stuff.
Yeah, very basic, but it wasn't a whole lot of patient stuff.
No. Yeah. So you did your 16-month obligation or whatever it was there, and then then it says you went on to 1st MARDIV, 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, C Company. Now, did you fill out a dream sheet and request this, or how'd you get that?
No, it's actually really funny. When I was calling the detailer, because you call your detail and you negotiate, you find out what's available and you can pick, right? So when I call the detailer to start, arranging for orders after Great Lakes, he offers me a ship home ported out of Naples, Italy, and my reply to that is, well, that's great. Do you have anything at 1st Marine Division? And he was like, what?
Because you wanted to go with the Marines, right? You wanted to.
Yeah, I wanted to. I finished field med school, and, I really enjoyed it. I really liked being around the Marines. And so, I had a chance to go and just stay and, being a normal Navy guy, go to a ship in Italy, which would have been awesome, But I went to California and went with the 1st Marine Division. So
you're back in Camp Pendleton now.
Yep. And the day I checked on board was November 10th, 1995. And I checked on board and everything was closed. Everything was shut down. And I got sent to the transient area on Main side, right? And I go to this building and there's this one person who looks like the sorriest Marine in the world because they're on duty on the Marine Corps birthday. And of course, I totally spaced that on what day it was and the significance of it. I just knew that I had a report no later than date. And so I was reporting no later than my date, which just happened to coincide
with the Marine Corps birthday.
So when I first got to the 1st Marine Division, I basically got set in the transient barracks, which was so old and just run down, and nobody was ever there. And for the first whole weekend that I was in town, because everybody was on a 96.
Right.
All commands were having their balls, and they were going out and they're doing their fun stuff, and I had no idea about it. So I checked on board, and it was a ghost town for the first weekend.
Sure.
But, they rolled around, and then Monday, or Tuesday, I should say, I went and checked in at the division surgeon's office, and then got assigned to the 1st Battalion, 4th Marines up at Camp Horno.
So how many corpsmen were with your units there?
Okay, so H&S Company had, the guys that deal with all the admin and all that stuff. So the doc, the IDC, and I think it was 3 or 4 that were in H&S. And then we had 4 companies, and then each company had 4 platoons. So you had 3 platoons, and then the H&S platoon for each company. And back then, the company only got one corpsman, right?
Uh-huh.
So the company itself would get 4. You have the head corpsman, which would be with H&S, and then first, second, and third platoons, you would each have one corpsman. So back then, I was with 1st Battalion, 4th Marines. I was assigned to Charlie Company, which was the Helo Company.
Okay.
And then I was in the 3rd platoon of the company. So we used to call ourselves Third Herd.
Okay.
You know, I love those guys.
So you were in a Helo company, right?
Yes.
So you flew around in helicopters.
Yep. Flew around helicopters, fast roped, rappelled, you know, everything and everything. Basically, it was just, we were the guys that got a ride to close to wherever we were going in a helicopter, and then we'd either fast rope or they'd land and we'd get out, and then we'd have to hump in to do whatever we're going to do, wherever it is that we're going to do it, and then, you know, you hump back out to the, you know, to the LZ, and then you wait for the bird and get back on the bird and you fly back. You know,
sure.
So that's basically what we did.
So you were there from 95 to 97.
Yeah, till December of 97.
So what are you now? Are you like an E4?
I'm an E3.
You're still an E3.
E4, yeah. Well, no, I had been promoted. I got promoted to E4 in Great Lakes, and then I did something stupid, accidentally. Not going to get into it.
That's all right, man.
And then I became an E3 again. And, so
the old captain's mass, huh?
Oh yeah. So I'm one of those guys that I always used to tell the people, you know, the juniors that used to work for me, is like, you can always make 3rd class your first time up. I've done it twice. So I took the 3rd class exam twice, and I made it twice. So I used to tell them all the time, it's like, you know, I know you can do it. It just takes dedication and hard work.
Sure.
But you know.
Sure.
But you can guarantee, you're guaranteed to make 3rd class your first time up.
Uh-huh.
But after that, man, it used to be, I used to get so frustrated because it was like, you know, you do the mathematics, and, you know, you put, you know, find what your findable multiples, you know, roughly going to be. Like if I aced the exam with my award points, eval points, all the things added up, this is what I'm going to have. And knowing that it's nowhere near the final multiples for like the last 3 times, it was like, well, it's like a mathematical impossibility.
Right.
I didn't make 2nd class. Making 2nd class was the absolute hardest that any other way. I took the exam 7 times, and I scored in the top 10% every single time I took the exam, and it still took 7 times to make it.
Wow.
It was ridiculous.
Wow. So after the 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, you transferred to the 1st Combat Engineer Battalion.
Yeah.
That's also on Pendleton, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, you went from 53 area to 52 area. Or not 53 to 52, but it was like 33. I can't.
Okay. All right.
51 and 53. Yeah, still worry about it. It's just the different areas in Camp Pendleton. But my 1st Marine Corps unit was in San Mateo, or was in Camp Horno. And then the next one, the Combat Engineer, was in San Mateo. So it was just different areas, but both up towards the northern end of the base.
Okay.
But
then after that, you went and worked at the Naval Hospital in Camp Pendleton.
Yeah.
From 98 to 02?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So from December 98 to 02. And that's where when I first got there, I was stationed with the emergency room, but I was put on what was called the dedicated crew. And so it was basically the EMS system. So the 911 service for the base.
Mm-hmm.
We had 4 ambulances
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, covered different areas. So we had an ambulance in 13 area, one in 21 area, one in 33 area, and one in 52 area. So I was up at Med 5-2, which is up between, you know, it was at the School of Infantry on the northern end of the base.
Okay.
And so we would cover whoever dialed 911 on base, up in, you know, from Las Pulgas all the way up. That's what we covered. And then Med 52 on the ambulance that I worked at. And I did that for the first 2 years. And I was at the Naval Hospital. And then after that, I got stationed with, just moved to the Education and Training Department after I made second class. I made second class while I was working on the ambulance. And I guess I didn't want, a second class working on the ambulances. So I got sent to Education and Training, which I really enjoyed because I like teaching. I like, passing on knowledge to people.
Sure.
So I worked there for until it was, time for me to go. And
sure.
That's where I worked when 9/11 happened. I was working at I remember the day 9/11 happened. I was driving into work and on the radio you're hearing these things because, it's like 6 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast. And the planes had already started, hitting the towers.
Right.
So after the first plane hit the first tower, while I'm driving to work, and I'm thinking when I get to work, I'm thinking I hope this is a sick joke, because it's like you see the faces of the other people that are getting to work at the same time, and you just look at each other, and it's like I hope this is a joke, and it's like. Yeah, me too, man, because you know what it means.
You know what it means, right.
Nothing good.
Yeah.
It's nothing good.
Right. So after 9/11, that's when you went to the first, where'd you go then? You went to the first MARDIV?
Yeah, well, after 9/11 happened, what they did is that all of us at the Naval Hospital who were FMF qualified, they sent us as our command was now Naval Hospital was 1st Marine Division Naval Hospital Detachment.
Okay.
So officially, we belonged back to the 1st Marine Division, and it was like we were like a reservist kind of. What they would do, we would work 3 weeks in our normal position at the Naval Hospital, and then the 1 week out of every month we would spend with the 1st Marine Division going through, refresher trainings or doing whatever, so that's how that went, so after 9/11 to get prepared, like if they're going to start sending massive troops and stuff and they need us, we're already ready. We've already been, penciled in, like if this unit deploys, you'll go with them, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Back then you got all your Geneva, convention cards and renewed with all updated information and all that stuff because, being medical providers in case of, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think the one good thing that came out of that little thing is right around that time frame is when they first officially made the FMF pin and brought it into existence.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I went to FMF used to be just a ribbon.
That's what I got, yeah.
A ribbon. Yeah, so I got my FMF ribbon in 1996. Mm-hmm. So ever since then I was, HM3 or HM2, FMF, Lyons and stuff. And, but while I was stationed at the Naval Hospital, for like those first 2 years on the ambulance service, I was a little mad because I had seen the pin. I knew the pin was coming ever since I was in field medical service school back in 94. They showed us a picture of what the pin's going to look like once it ever gets approved. And so fast forward a few years and, finally the pin comes into existence and I was mad as hell because I had just transferred away from the Marines. So I thought, well, shit, I'm not going to be able to do this. But when I got, reattached after 9/11 to, the 1st Marine Division, being a part of the Naval Hospital Detachment, one of the things that we did in the training that we kept going through was to go through the entire qualification process for the FMF pin.
Okay.
And So went through that, did all the books, did the classes, got all that stuff, did the boards, and then after I did the board, man, it's like, I knew I passed. They told me that I passed, and all that was fine. And then, I go back to, the Naval Hospital to, start doing my normal job. And then one day I got hit by a truck.
What?
On my, one day my ex-wife and I, we were going to be going on a motorcycle ride up Pacific Coast Highway. Uh-huh. And our daughter at the time was 2. And this is in November of 91, or 2001, sorry.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was waiting on her to get our daughter ready. And so I washed my motorcycle, and we looked up the top of the hill, and then there was a cul-de-sac at the end of the road. And so instead of sitting there waiting, I figured I'd just drive down to the end of the road and drive back up, knock some water off the bike, just not sit in the driveway, just sitting there waiting. So I ride my bike down to the end of the road, and I do a little turn, turn around in the cul-de-sac, and as I'm starting to come back up my road, boom. Next thing I know, I'm looking at the sky, and I'm like, what the hell has happened?
Just like that.
Yeah, just like that. It was this Marine backed out of his driveway without looking and just hit me right in the side. Wow. And I had an open tib bit fracture, so it broke my leg. I was bleeding all over the road.
You had a compound fracture?
Yeah, double compound fracture in my right leg, the tibia and fibula. And so I ended up having a titanium rod and 2 screws put into my leg, and that put me on limited duty for a good period of time.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, but I remember it was after when I was stationed at when I was in the education and training department. Before this, when I became a second class, as soon as I was eligible, I knew that I wanted to be an IDC.
So now we're going to start talking about IDC, and for those who don't know, that's Independent Duty Corpsman School. This is where the cream rises to the top. Okay, so it says you told me you were accepted to Submarine Independent Duty Corpsman School, but first you went and completed Basic Enlisted Submarine School before starting IDC. That's what?
Yeah, because if you can't pass the test that lets you become it's like the apprenticeship training at the beginning of my career, where they just teach you like your basic seamanship. This, or Basic Enlisted Submarine School, is basically the exact same thing. It would teach you the basics in order to be able to serve on a submarine. So lots of damage control, the basic structure, ballast tanks, how things work, size, all the different things that you would need to know just before you get onto a boat.
Sure.
You learn very basic stuff.
How long is that school? How long was that school?
We started in about a month and a half, maybe 2 months.
Okay.
And it was because we didn't start until really close to my birthday in September. So towards the end of September, but we started in August 8th or something like that, August 2nd. So about a month and a half.
So is this where you guys all go through like psych evals and all that kind of stuff? Yeah, you do. You go through, you fill out like the health questionnaires,
submarine duty health questionnaire, which, became thoroughly familiar with later on because, I would later be stationed at the clinic in Groton after my first IDC tour.
Okay. So is Submarine Independent Duty Corpsman different than Independent Duty Corpsman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it's mainly because you're also the radiation health officer on the boat.
Oh.
So you're not only dealing with the medicine and the normal medical things, but you're also the one person that manages and has everything to deal with the radiation health aspect of it, because it's a nuclear powered vessel.
Right.
Everybody wears a thermoluminescent dosimeter or a PLD that measures the amount of exposure that you get from a naval nuclear propulsion source. So you've got to deal with all the issuing and the receiving and all of the. It's a lot. I'm going to tell you, it takes up about 90% of your time. 90% of everything as a submarine IDC is mostly like medicine. Medicine is easy.
Yeah. Wow.
It's the easiest part of the job.
Yeah.
But rad health. So one thing that makes it different is that we do barometric medicine. Okay, we have to be familiar with it because we're working in an enclosed space, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have an artificial atmosphere that's, artificial pressure. You're, changing depths and all this other good stuff. But the main thing is the rad health program. So the way that submarine IDC school was, let's go back before to where, like when I applied for IDC school, I had no idea that there was such a thing as submarine IDC. I had never given submarines a single thought in my career.
Right. So you wanted to go to independent duty corpsman school, and then you found out about submarine IDC school.
Well, this is how it happened. It's like the Sea School detailer at the time had come to Camp Pendleton, which is where I was working at the time, and like to see about people putting in packages to go to the sea schools. And so I had my, I filled in, for an appointment to sit down with them because I wanted to talk to them about this. And so I got there and I had my meeting, and he's looking and he goes, "So, what sea school are you thinking about?" I was like, "Well, I want to be an IDC." And my whole entire experience with IDCs was at my very first duty station. There was a small command, and we only had an IDC and one general duty corpsman. So
you're talking about back in Panama.
Back in Panama, yeah.
Okay.
Back in Panama, there was only one IDC and then one general duty corpsman. So I was already that general duty corpsman.
Right.
I was already an FMF corpsman, but I wanted to be an IDC. And then my other experience was with the Marine Corps. So my idea of an IDC was something along those lines. I had no idea that there were different types and there are different requirements and stuff. And so
neither did I.
And so he says, he goes, "So why do you want to be an IDC?" And I looked at him and I was like, well, it's like honestly, it kind of comes to this. It's like, I'm the shit. It's like, and I'm not saying that to be like, full of myself or anything. It's like, but I take my job seriously, and I really enjoy helping people. It's what I like to do. It's what I want to keep doing.
Sure.
And so he was like, "So why do you want to go to Surface IDC school?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" Because I didn't know that there was any kind of a differentiation. So he goes, "Well, what you're describing, is there's no guarantees that you're going to be independent." And I'm like, "Listen, Surface IDC school is a pump. And, we need people for billets, and so people go there and, they'll train you, and then they'll keep working with you until you pass, so you can go fill that billet. And then if you graduate, most of the time you're going to go to a place just like this, another hospital or, a clinic somewhere. And then water right hospital and clinics, nurses and doctors. So are you ever independent? No. Then you could go to a ship, but most ships have medical officers, so you're not going to be independent." And he goes, and then, if you go back to the Marines, what does every Marine Corps battalion have? It has battalion surgeons, so you're not independent. So he's like, "Have you ever thought of submarine IDC?" And I'm like going, what is that? And he went, "Well, submarine IDC is the only billet where you are guaranteed upon graduation to get an independent billet on a submarine." He goes, "There will be no junior corpsman, there will be no doctors, no nurses, no other medical person at all to help you out. It's you. It's either you're going to sink or you're going to swim."
Wow.
And I'm like, that's for me. And he says, he goes, well, hey, now, wait a second. He goes, you got to understand, where surface IDC school is a pump, submarine IDC school is a filter. And so they will filter, and he goes, they have a 50 to 55% attrition rate. And he was right. I started school with 16 people or 13 people, and only 6 of us graduated.
Wow. Now that school was a year and 2 months long, huh?
Yeah.
You know, that's the longest school I've ever heard of in any branch of services. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just ignorant, but that's a long school for the military. I do know that.
Yeah, it is. But it's really good. I mean, like, we did our surgery and our trauma rotations at Yale. So when that happens, it's after you're graduating, you're doing or not graduating, but whenever you're done with all the didactic and the classroom stuff, and you've got to go through and you start doing your clinical rotations, you know, your hands-on kind of stuff. So, you know, we'd work at Groton, we'd work at a couple civilian hospitals, we'd work at the, you know, Coast Guard Academy, but we would do our trauma and our surgery rotations at Yale Medical School. And they would equate us as third-year medical students, so basically like residents.
Yeah.
And they let us become, and they were great. They were awesome. I mean, when we got there, we were a part of their team, and we did everything that other normal, you know, team of doctors would do. We did surgeries, we did traumas. It was great. It really was.
What kind of surgeries? What kind of surgeries did you do?
Did a bowel resection, took out an appendix. The one that they let me do completely and utterly by myself was this lady had a large lipoma, a big fatty cyst at the base of her neck on her back. So it's like in between her shoulder blades, just a little bit higher up. But I mean, it was about the size of a grapefruit. And so the doc that I did like the bowel resection with, which was totally cool. I'd never seen the equipment that they used to actually, you know, piece the bowel back together. But it's kind of nifty and really easy.
Sure.
It's really easy to use. But on this one, you know, he just says, he goes, hey, why don't you take care of this one for yourself? So he just stood behind my left shoulder and was like watching, and I just opened her up and took out the lipoma, did the whole entire thing. And then when we were ready to close it up, and he was like, do you know how to close? I'm like, well, yeah, I used to teach the class. And he went, all right, close it with a running suture and come and get me when you're done. And he'd love to walk the hell out of the OR.
Wow. You are definitely at the top of the heap now. You know? Where'd he go? Don't tell me I lost him.
Every single day.
Right.
And then you have oral boards all throughout.
Sure.
So you've got to, you get called off to go gas-free, because you're also the gas-free engineer. You're also the assistant safety guy. You're also the guy that does all the waters. You're also the guy that does all the sanitation and habitability inspections. So you're basically the PMT, the rad health tech, the doc, the lab guy, the guy doing the galley inspections, plus everybody's, confidant and nurse and whatever else.
Everything else that goes with being a doc, right?
Yeah, because you're it. There's nobody else.
Yeah. So then you get orders to your first sub in Hawaii, huh? The USS Olympia?
Yep, the USS Olympia SSN 717, which is now decommissioned.
Okay. Served as a medical department representative from 03 to 07. You earned your submarine service designation, your dolphin pin, in 04.
Mm-hmm.
That was your first, they call them boats?
Yeah, it was my first boat.
I remember when I was in, I called them boats, and they said, it's not a boat, it's a ship. So, yeah, I got yelled at for that one.
Yeah, so did I, but ships are ships, and submarines are boats.
Submarines are boats. Yeah. You see, you get your dolphin pin, and this is when you made chief also in 07.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your first sub. Is this where the dude was freaking out and rocking you told me about?
Oh, yeah. The toolbox of tears?
The toolbox of tears. Yeah. Yeah, tell our listeners about that, man.
All right, so we have this, when you go through BEST, the Basic Enlisted Summer School, we already talked about, you have to fill out these mental health questionnaires, and one of the big things that they need to make sure of is that you're not claustrophobic.
Right.
I mean, why do we want to stick you on a metal tube going underwater if you're claustrophobic, right? That would be like torture.
Uh-huh.
So, we weed those people out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got this one guy who, he was a torpedoman, which is, he was a radioman. He was a radioman. So he's one of the guys that has the highest security clearances on the boat, right?
Uh-huh.
And because that's the radio and they take care of everything,
Right.
At least all the like orders, where we're going, what we're doing, all
Yeah.
that stuff. But anyway, I get, one of the torpedomen comes up to my space one day and he's like, "Hey Doc, I need you to come down and check something out, man. This just doesn't look right." And so I'm like, "What is the thing?" Like, "You'll see." And so when you go into the Olympia was a fast attack submarine. So when you go into the torpedo room, you either got to turn left, you got to turn right, because I mean you can see into the whole entire room, but the big rack of torpedoes are like right in front of you, and then you either walk to the left or to the right, and you can go up the sides until you get to the front of the torpedo room, which is right where the torpedo tubes are. Anyway, on the starboard side, it says go outboard on the starboard side. And so I'm like, okay. So I'm walking up to the to the torpedo tube, and I'm squeezing past it and looking into the outboard, and that's where we'd like put toolboxes and things like that. And lo and behold, I get to that side and I look back and I see this new radioman that just checked on board. It's his first underway. We've been in port when he got there.
Yeah.
So this is his first underway, and he is sitting on this toolbox with his arms, like his hands, like up underneath his armpits, like hugging himself.
Uh-huh.
He is just rocking back and forth, crying, and he's just rocking back and forth. And I'm like, oh shit.
I'd love to laugh.
I start talking to him, and I find out what's going on. And basically, he was claustrophobic. And so when I asked him, I was like, "Listen, when you went to sub school, did you fill out the form?" And he went, "Oh yeah," but I was like, "Well, they asked you about this," and he looked at me like I was incredulously. He just looked at me and he's like, "Oh, but if I'd answered that truthfully, then I would never have gotten here." And I'm like, "That's the point. That is the whole point." And he knew he was claustrophobic, but he just figured that he could just get past it.
Oh.
And, evidently he couldn't. And so, at that time, we were getting ready to, I was already deciding to go ahead and get him off, because he doesn't need to be here.
Right.
But we were getting ready to have what's called a TRE, or a Tactical Readiness Exam, right?
Okay.
And on submarines, you have exams, or inspections, all kinds of inspections every year, multiple times a year. I mean, like all kinds of stuff. So a tactical readiness inspection is they're testing the ability of just exactly what it says. It's tactical readiness. It's more of a forward part. Sonarmen, fire control technicians, the people in control, and the guys in the torpedo rooms, the countermeasures, things like that, to defend the boat, right? To be tactical and ready. Anyway, one of the biggest parts about that is the radiomen. They're the ones that get all of these and have to send all these messages, because it's like where you do like for me, like as the doc, they'll fake like a casualty will be a training scenario, right?
Sure, yeah,
so,
I did that,
they'll
yeah.
Just say, Corpsman Lane 2, engine room, upper level, whatever part of the boat, and you go up there, and then they're giving you, basically, there's your patient, and then you've got an inspector who is telling you, whenever you're doing your assessment, this is what you see. This is what you see. When you ask a question, then he'll give you whatever the answer, if he has it, right? And so you've got to determine what exactly is going on, what the course of treatment is, but also, is this something that needs to be medevac or not? And if you do so, then you've got to, send up and you have to create the, full on, evac messages and literally send them. So we got this new kid who's, rocking back and forth.
On the toolbox of tears.
On the toolbox of tears, right. So I'm getting ready to, start arranging to have him taken off when the inspection team comes on, so that way I can get him off the boat.
Mm-hmm.
That's what needs to happen.
I see. Okay.
So that morning, the CO comes by my space, and he's like, "Hey, Doc, man, do we have to medevac him off? Because this is going to put us a man down, and we're already short." And I was like, yeah. And he went, is there something else that we can do? And so I just said, "Sir, do me a favor. Just go up the ladder and just peek at the fan room door." Now, none of you know what the hell I'm talking about, but where my space was on the submarine is in the middle level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's right before you get to the mess decks. But so you literally just go around a little corner. It's 3 steps.
Right.
But before you step into the mess decks, there's a little short ladder well that goes up to upper level, right? And it takes you to the space that's right by the radio room, and then the entrance into control, into the bridge area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the bridge is on the outside, but into control. And so I've got this kid, because he's a radioman, but I'm not allowed, he can't go into radio because the radio is one of the most cramped spaces on the boat. So this guy not only is he dying just because he's on a submarine, but where he's supposed to be working is one of the smallest and most confined places in the boat.
Oh,
and so I've got him sitting on the toolbox of tears outside the fan room because there's a big door and all of the ventilation is taken, it's like the fan room is where all of the ventilation comes in, gets mixed around, cleaned, and then pushed back out to the rest of the boat.
Uh-huh.
And so I've got him waiting on, I've got him out of the way. He's sitting in the spot to where he is okay. It's close enough to where I'm going to have to get him off the boat. Everything's arranged, everything's fine. But, the CO wants to know, is there anything else that we could do? So I just tell him, go look. And so I didn't tell him anything about it. I just said, go look up the ladder, just look at the fan door. And he's like, what? I was like, humor me. So, he just turns around and he walks over to the little ladder. And you don't have to go all the way up. All you got to do is get to where your head at the top, and then you just look left, and there you see it. So when he goes up there, he sees him in the same pose, like the
whole rocking back and forth.
Rocking back and forth,
right.
And just,
That's some love.
It's like, come on, dude. Right? And so after that, the CO just comes out and he goes, I get it. Get him off. And he just walks away. So yeah, I've had people that have, not enjoyed their time. But then again, you've got you see all kinds of people.
Yeah.
And you see all kinds of stuff. And then, of course, we have riders that come on board or guests.
Mm-hmm.
They're the people that are, the spooks, the cryptologic technicians and stuff, and whenever we go on deployment, and we have a bunch of people that are coming on board to do all of their spy shit,
Mm-hmm.
and
crypto techs. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, crypto techs. And so we get them on board, and so you get some of them who do stupid shit. Like there's one guy who thought he was really bad, awesome kid, great. And when he was like on the advanced party, and so he came out before the deployment to get all the spaces and all the programs and all the things set up. So when we did go on deployment and everybody else in the inspection group comes, he's fine. So he's already been there for about a month, and then leaves, and then he comes back when we're actually on deployment, getting ready to do the mission, and he comes with the rest of the the mission team. And he's walking around, he's showing them around the boat because, he's like Billy Badass, right? He knows his way around. He knows what's going on. He's already, had this. So he decides that he's going to take them for the tour around the ship to show, the submarine, to show them exactly where everything's at.
Right.
And there's a spot when you go from the main propulsion lube oil bay into the main condensate bay, where you have to like go under, you got to duck through like it's not a tunnel, but it looks like a little tunnel hatch. It's a smaller little opening. But it's got one of those handles above it to where you can like hold on and like duck and go under. But some people like to grab it and like to swing through like it's trapeze.
Yeah.
And so he decides to do that because he's cool. And what he ended up doing is hitting the top of the edge of that thing and basically scalping himself.
Yeah, because it's so confined space, man.
Yeah, and so he comes in and he has basically got his skin flap, that's been peeled back to where you can see the skull and all kinds of stuff. And I'm just clowning him the whole time. Just clowning him. Like, how'd that tour go? Remember that safety thing when I said, don't swing through hatches? Man, you should have listened, shouldn't you? Like, this is all your fault. This is an injury that did not need to happen. The specific reason why we tell you people not to do these things, and you went and did it, and then you got to do it in front of all of your friends. So they got to see how stupid you are, but you're the best example I could have asked for.
So what'd you do? You suture him up?
Oh, yeah, I cleaned him up, sutured him up, and just laughed at him forever.
That's great, man.
And then, I got to tell you, it's like, after a while in the military, it's like you have to have some thick skin or you're just not going to last.
That's it, man. That's it.
Like all these, like in these kids in today's day and age, that's just... like, I actually had a duty station once where, I was handing out, when I was the LCPO of the Undersea Medicine Clinic in Groton after I finished my first boat, giving out work assignments to the people that work for me in my department. And this one kid comes by and he goes, hey, Chief, I don't really feel like doing this. I'm going to swap with this person. I go, no, because they're doing this. And they went, yeah, but I just don't really want to do this. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck what you want to do. It's like, this is what you're going to do.
Right.
This isn't a democracy. This isn't you don't get to choose. I need you to do this. And no one else is going to do this except for you.
Yeah, so this is at the clinic in New Groton, or at Groton, Connecticut.
Yeah, in Groton. Yeah, London Naval Submarine Base.
So after you get done with your deployment in Hawaii on your first sub, then you go back to Groton, Connecticut at the submarine base, and you were in charge of a clinic there.
Yeah, I was the Undersea Medicine Clinic. Because, it's just your basic clinic, so, it helps everybody. It sees, dependents and the kids and all that stuff, but it's a submarine base, and, so they need to have people who understand submarine medicine, because one of the biggest problems is a lot of things are submarine disqualifying. Like, when we used to send people to smoking cessation class, right? And they give you, like, the Chantix medication to help you stop smoking. Well, Chantix is submarine disqualifying. So if I had people that wanted to stop smoking, I'd send them to the class, but I would have to inform the instructors of the class, do not prescribe Chantix to these people. Because they tried to do it once, and the guy brought me the pill, brought him to the boat. I was like, hey, Doc, I thought you said I wasn't supposed to get these. I was like, get what? And he gives it to me, it's the Chantix. I'm like, well, no, you're not supposed to get. I said, have you taken any of these? He went, no. I'm like, good. So
don't.
But like everything can make you sub-disqualified. I mean, it's ridiculous. So anyway, there were people that were working in the submarine clinic before I got there who had no idea, nor were they trained to identify things that were, potentially sub-disqualifying or submarine disqualifying. And so people would go to shore duty after a boat and then go to the clinic and start getting treatment beforehand and just get treated like a normal patient would, right? And because it was a problem that I had with the civilian providers in the clinic, because the people that were on shore duty, they would have their primary care managers, like me personally, as just the IEC. I had 500 people that I was the primary care doctor for.
Wow.
Shore duty. And, so I had a schedule. I had patients. I had everything just like your normal doctors does. And Anyway, so we would have provider meetings, and I would have to tell these providers I'd give them like a list of medications that they cannot prescribe to submariners. And, they push back. And they say, well, no, I'm not going to follow this. I'm going to prescribe what I think they need. And I was like, if you do that, you're going to end their career.
Sure.
And it took to where, actually having that happen to the base command master chief.
Oh.
Yeah, he came in, and when he was getting ready to go get another, order to be a cob on another boat, he couldn't do it because all of a sudden he was sub-disqualified. And he comes at me, and I'm like, going, not me. You go talk to your provider. Because I've been telling them this for a year, and they just keep telling me to go fuck myself. So he rose the stink that he was submarine disqualified, but he didn't do anything wrong, and it was all because of a medication that his civilian doctor had given him.
Yeah.
And, but it was a civilian doctor that worked at the Naval Clinic. So, I had been telling them, you cannot prescribe these things to these people, and they just kept telling me to pack sand until this happened. And then they got a realization from the topmost enlisted person on the entire base.
Yeah.
Screwed my career. You know what you just did? Some E4, E5 coming by saying, oh, this sucks. But when a guy is already, retirement age and they're wanting to go take this billet, so it'll be their end billet, now all of a sudden you're telling them that they can't because of something that adopted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now
anyway, after that point, they started listening.
Yeah. So after this clinic, now, Chief, you were so badass, you go back with the Marines.
I did.
After you went on a submarine, you just had a longing to go back with the Marines.
Well, the way it worked out is I had, once I became a submarine IDC, I had resigned myself to. That was it. I was never going to go back with the Marine Corps again. I mean, we're undermanned in the submarine force.
Right.
So why they're not about to let me go take, a greenside billet when they need me in the deep blue sea. So
right.
When I got to Groton, I had been there for 4.5 months, and this message came across that they needed an IDC, an independent duty corpsman, an FMF qualified duty corpsman, independent duty corpsman, to go do an individual augment with the 2nd Battalion, 6th Marines out of Camp Lejeune. And we had 3 surface IDCs at the clinic.
Uh-huh.
None of them wanted to go. None of them wanted to do it. And I hadn't even thought about it because it says specifically for a surface IDC, for FMF qualified surface IDC billet, right? And none of the service IDCs wanted to do it. And so I just like, I'm an FMF qualified independent duty corpsman.
Sure.
Submarine guys can take surface billets. It's not the other way around. A surface guy can't take a submariner's billet.
I got you.
We can take theirs.
I got you.
I volunteered because we have the same medical training. It's just all the extra stuff that we have to do that they don't. So it's one of the big things that's different. So I just said, I'll gladly go and do go back and do a Marine Corps deployment as a chief IDC. Fuck yeah!
Yeah, bring it on, man. Yeah.
I had that experience as an E3 and an E4, right?
Uh-huh.
And a non-IDC. So yeah, I'm like, I'll do this. So
right.
I did 4 years on my first submarine to come on the shore duty, just to do 4.5 months to volunteer for a 10-month deployment with the Marines.
Uh-huh.
But in that time, I got to go back to, the Marine Corps. I got to be,
Greenside again.
Greenside again with my submarine fish on.
Nice.
It used to bother some of the other corpsmen in the sandbox because we would be out in the desert somewhere. And we'd all be getting the hazardous duty and the imminent danger, all that stuff. But I would also still be getting submarine duty pay. They hated it. They just thought that was the worst. I mean, you mean you're getting paid even more? I'm like, yep.
What's this bubblehead doc doing out here, right?
Exactly. I got that asked a lot. Like guys would walk by and they'd see my fish, and I'm going, aren't you in the wrong place? Someone going, yeah, I love it.
That's awesome. So you deployed with them on the 26th Marine MEU, right? That's Marine Expeditionary
Unit, the MEU.
So now you're going out on a ship.
Yep.
You're finally on a ship.
I had done a MEU with my first Marine Corps unit, the 1st Battalion, 4th Marines.
Right.
In 1996, I deployed with 1-4 as part of the 13th MEU out of San Diego.
Okay.
I did my first deployment on the USS Tarawa, which was the LHA-1. It's also decommissioned already. But, it was already old. It was the 20-year anniversary during the deployment.
Okay.
I remember having a big ice cream social in July while we were on deployment because of the ship's 20-year, commissioning day. But, of course, since then it's been decommissioned. But, yeah, I did the 13th MEU with 1-4 in 96. And then...
Back up one second. You were on the Tarawa?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think RP, our president, was on the Tarawa.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to have to find out from him. I'm going to talk to him later on today. But enough backpedaling. Also, on this MEU that you went on, is this where you went off the coast of Somalia?
Yes.
Tell our listeners a little bit about that experience and when you guys were hunting pirates.
And it was an exercise in frustration. Our job was to go and find the pirates that kept taking down hijacking all of these ships in the shipping lanes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're out there and we're in a 3-ship guard. San Antonio, I think it was the Evo that was with us, and the Iwo Jima was the flat deck. The San Antonio, and then I was on the USS Carter Hall.
Okay.
Anyway, so we're out there, and our job is to go and hunt down the pirates.
Mm-hmm.
We found them. They're in their little boats, and they're showing their AK-47s and their RPGs, and they're pointing them at everything except for us. We've got our Marine Corps sniper brothers are all up on the deck in the ship where you can actually see out everything, observation deck.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all set up, and they're asking for permission to engage, and they kept getting denied. They kept saying, no, State Department has not given us authorization to engage. We're not taking them down. We're just here to watch. And then we did that for weeks. And I remember the big difference about being on a surface ship and a submarine is like when you're on a submarine, you cease to exist. You don't get any news unless it comes in a message, through an official message traffic.
Oh.
The internet doesn't exist. You get your emails, but somebody's already read them.
Uh-huh.
And like me, I was on both of my submarines because I'm fluent in English and Spanish. I can read and write and Spanish. So all the guys that would get emails from their wives or family that were in Spanish, I would have to read their email to see if there was anything that they shouldn't know.
Uh-huh.
And because like if you get an email that says like, hey, your mom died, we're not going to give you that email. We're gonna talk to everybody behind and try to get everything arranged, but we want to have everything in a row because sometimes that happens and there isn't shit that we can do about it. We're on station. We're not pulling off for nothing.
Right.
And so they won't even tell the person that the individual whatever happened until it's been a month. Sometimes it depends on how long we're there and what the situation is. But
that's pretty hardcore.
Yeah. But what was your question?
So you were hunting these pirates.
Hunting the pirates. So we're up there, and the Marines are just getting frustrated as can be because here they are. They're right there. We see them. We know that that's them. Why wouldn't they let us take them down? So we basically just followed them, and it was frustrating. It's like you'd go inside the ship, and this is why I got off on that little tangent. Is because on surface ships they actually have satellites, and they get TV stations. Most of the time it's like the AFOM stuff, but Armed Forces Network.
Right.
But sometimes you get like the snippets of like a CNN or something like that, and so I go inside the chief's quarters on the ship, and I'm sitting there watching the TV and looking at the news, and here comes the CNN analyst saying is like, well, State Department states all efforts to locate the pirates have failed, and I'm like going, bullshit, they're right outside the fucking ship. We can take them out right now. No, just sit there and look at them, and after a while, some ship or boat or something rode by one of the oil platforms in the Persian Gulf, and so all of a sudden that's an emergency. So they pulled us off the pirate detail, and we fast-tracked beat feet straight to the Persian Gulf. By the time we get there, of course, everything's taken care of. There's nothing that we need to do, right? But it was the oil platform was more important than the pirates.
Right.
And then, like that movie, that Captain Phillips movie with Tom Hanks, the ship that was taken out. I've never seen that movie, and I refuse to watch it because the people that took his boat down were the same fuckers that we had in our sights. And it's like, that didn't even need to happen.
Yeah.
One of those things that you do in your military career that are just frustrating. Believe me, there are more, but they're classified and I can't talk about.
Sure. I understand. I bet a lot of this stuff is, yeah, we didn't go too deep into that stuff. So after that clinic, after that MEU, did you go?
Let me tell you a little story about that MEU.
Okay.
So our first Liberty port that we pulled into was Marseille in France.
Mm-hmm.
And so while we're in France, I think it was the company commander, he had an idea, like, hey, what'd be really cool is if we could take a trip and go check out the battlefield at Belleau Wood.
Yeah.
Right? So Belleau Wood is the very first battle that the modern Marine Corps fought in World War I. It's the one where, 2-5 was going into attack, going up to the front lines while all the Frenchmen are retreating.
Right.
So they're telling them to retreat, and the Marines are turning around. This is the saying, and 2-5 is like, retreat, hell, we just got here.
Yeah.
And so, you say retreat, and with round 2-5, and they'll say, retreat, hell, we just got here. Anyway, so it was at this battle that the Marines first engaged the Marine Corps from the United States, and they said that these guys fight like the hounds of hell.
The devil dogs.
So that's where it was at this battle that the Marine Corps got their moniker, Devil Dogs.
Right.
It was what was given to them by the German stormtroopers. But anyway, so in Marseille, they're thinking, hey, wouldn't it be nice if we can go and check this out? So they asked everybody on the ship, and 80 people, are like, yeah, I wanna go. And then they tell everybody, okay, that's fine, you're gonna have to pay your own way, right? This isn't something that's sanctioned, this is just something that we're gonna do. And so out of the 80 people that initially wanted to do it, only 35 of us, right? A bunch of the Marines and then me. I was the only corpsman that wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, yeah, hey, I'm willing to pay to do that. And what we were going to do is we're going to rent some transport van kind of things.
Yeah.
And then just drive up to Paris, spend the night there, and then go to Chateau Thierry, which is where Belleau Wood is located at, the next day.
Uh-huh.
And so when we did that, it was going to initially cost each and every one of us about $350 each.
Okay.
And we were like, worth it, right?
Yeah.
I can either sit here and just walk around Marseille, or I can use some money and go see something that's historically significant.
Sure.
So once we decided that, we're all 35 of us were willing to do that. Well, when they went over to, the battalion office, when they contacted the rest of the chain command to get permission to do this, and they told them, that 80 people wanted to do it, but 35 are willing to pay their own way to do it. And so, their response was, well, you know what? That sounds like an awesome thing. I'll tell you what, we will finance it. We'll pay for the rental vehicles and we'll pay for the hotel. Everybody has to cover their own food. That's it. And so once they said that, the other 80 guys that said that they initially wanted were like, yeah, but they threw up their hands and said, no, this is only for the 35 that agreed to pay their own way.
Go.
So those of us that were still agreeing to pay our own way only had to pay for our own food. That was it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was very nice. So we drove all the way up, and it was like the first sergeant pet was in the first car, and then there was the gunny, a staff sergeant, and then another gunny, and then me, and I was driving the last vehicle, right?
Uh-huh.
And so we drive up there, and French countryside is beautiful. It's like my daughter right now, she's a national security specialist with the Air Force.
Okay.
She's a civilian employee.
Uh-huh.
So she just actually she's doing a 2-month stint in France right now. She just flew into Paris yesterday morning.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, that has nothing to do with it. But anyway, so we drive up to Paris, and it just so happened like the weekend that we were there was also a weekend that the Pope was in town. So finding a hotel was absolutely just almost impossible.
Uh-huh.
And, it was until around 10 o'clock, and finally we just got a hotel that would allow us to put like 4 or 5 people in a room. You know, it was only designed for 2, it's just we didn't have anything else. And so that's what we ended up doing. And so from around 10 until around 2 a.m., we got to walk around Paris, you know?
Wow.
You know, it's like, you know, it's pitch dark, but our hotel was only like 2 blocks away from the Eiffel Tower. So it was nice, you know, you got to see some stuff, and then in the morning, we left Paris at noon, driving out to Chateau Thierry, out by Bella Wood.
Mm-hmm.
So we get out there, and the American cemetery, the American Service Member Cemetery out there,
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. The chapel and everything that they've got, it is really, really, really pretty. It's really nice. I would recommend it. If anybody gets a chance to go to France and you want to see some pretty cool history, because they'll literally walk you through the Argonne Forest, right? So that you can see, like, you know, what they had to experience. And so while we were there, they were clearing out some trees, and they asked us, you know, hey, would you guys want, you know, just like a slice of the tree?
Oh, man,
just like a
yeah.
little round thing. And so I was like, yeah, I still have it. It looks great. It's just this, you know, nice little round piece of a tree.
Yeah, from Bella Woods, huh?
But from Bella Wood.
Wow.
So one of the coolest things is we did like a boots and utes run through the cemetery.
Mm.
You know, we wanted to basically just show our Marine Corps brothers and, you know, American brothers from way back in the day that we appreciated them and their sacrifice.
Sure.
But they have this one little creek that runs through it, and when it gets to where it, you know, it's like this little concrete thing, but when you go around it, on the opposite side is like this little concrete thing, but in the middle of it is this big brass bulldog head, and the water continues coming out of the bulldog's mouth into the pool, and then the stream keeps going after that. That was really cool to see. But the reason for this whole entire story was when we were driving back down from Chateau Thierry up in Bella Wood, back down to Marseille, you know, we're just in a line, and then we've got 5, you know, passenger vans, and we're just moving it down the road. Now, France is a little different than the United States, whereas we have cameras and stuff at our intersections.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in France, they literally have cameras on the side of their freeways.
Really?
So, yeah, so we're driving back and at night, and all of a sudden, up in the distance, there's a flash, and then the next car flash, and the next car flash, and the next car flash, and then all of a sudden flash. You know, it's like, what the fuck? And it's like, oh, I guess we just all got a ticket. Okay. So, continuing the journey, and we keep hitting these things. And so, in my vehicle, because I was driving the last vehicle, well, me and my Marines, we started preparing for the picture. So we'd be like throwing up signs. We had a guy mooning it, putting his ass in the middle of the windshield.
I knew somebody was going to do that.
You know, exactly. You know, but it made it kind of fun. I mean, because we were leaving port the next day. We were going to get to Marseille, turn in the vehicles, and the very next day we were getting out to sea. And like, you know, fuck it. You know.
Right.
And so anyway, we do that. And while we're underway, one day, me and the first sergeant and the gunnies and the staff sergeant get called into the ship's CO's office.
What? Whoa.
Yeah. So when we walk in, our Marine commander and the battalion commander and the company commander is sitting there, and we're like, what's going on? We're like, we got a message from the State Department today.
Shit.
Evidently, there's a warrant for each of your arrests in France. And we're like, wait, what? It's like, evidently you all have several speeding tickets that you had that you got while you were in your rental vehicles. And so when they processed them and they determined that they were rental vehicles, they charged the people that, rented the vehicles, which are all of us. We had to give them our driver's license like any other rental car, right?
Right.
And so literally what they said is that an arrest warrant has been issued for us in France because of all of these unpaid tickets, because of the excessive speed, and I would love to see the pictures on those things. But, they said that all we had to do is we had to pay the fine, right?
Right.
So, the COs, they were initially wanting us to just split it up 35 ways, like have all the Marines chip in some, but we were like, no, that's not how this works, because they weren't driving. We're not going to have our junior personnel start popping out all their money for something that we did, So we took the fine and we split it up between the five of us, the five of us that were driving the vehicles.
Right.
And it came out to be, I guess, a little under $400 each.
Okay.
But yeah, we paid the fines, and so we paid the ship, and the ship sent the thing to the State Department. The State Department informed France. So the funny thing is this: I was talking to my daughter about it yesterday. In September, my daughter wants me to come to France to spend my birthday with her in a foreign country or something. Like that sounds like an absolutely great time. And so I was talking to her yesterday about this. It's like, I hope that I don't show up to France and get arrested. I'm hoping that there's no longer a warrant from 2008 for me to get arrested for speeding tickets. So I'm hoping to God that the State Department didn't screw me there. I guess I'll find out in September.
Yeah, maybe they have a statute of limitations on speeding tickets or something in France. Who knows? So, yeah. So after you got done with that, where'd you go next?
Say anything about it? I'm like, well, hey, is there any way I can get a copy of those? No.
Right. So after
that would be epic.
Right. So after you got done with that that tour, you're telling me you went on to your second submarine, the USS Norfolk.
Yep. I finished the IA with 2.6 and the 26 mu, and then I came back to Groton and I finished my. Well, I didn't really finish it. I did a 10-month IA, and then I terminated shore duty 6 months early because I just me and the senior enlisted leader that I had there at Groton, he was just an absolute asshole.
Right.
I'm sorry. He was a master chief. I was a chief. I get it, but bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to get into that. He would. The first and only person I've ever blocked on Facebook was this person, because I'm just like, I don't ever want to talk to him again. I don't care to ever see him again. So I terminated shore duty 6 months early.
To go back to sea duty.
To go back to sea duty, yeah. So yeah, my ex-wife was not very, very happy with me, but she was happy that I could get her out of New England, because she absolutely fucking hated it up there.
She didn't like it up there, huh?
No, my ex-wife is Panamanian, so she's from Panama. So her first language is Spanish, which is pretty much why my Spanish got to be so well as good as it is. But the people up in New England, she said, were the like not nice. Like here's an example: to go to the hospital corpsman birthday ball, right? 1 year, my ex and one of the other guys' wives from my class. We're going out to get appointments to get their hair done for the ball. And she walks in, my wife walks in, the ex-wife walks in to schedule an appointment, and the people tell her, like, oh, our next appointment's not until 2 weeks. And so she's like, oh, well, okay. And so, she steps away, and then the other wife, who had been looking at some shampoo or whatever, waiting, she goes up, and, she's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed American lady, and, she asked for an appointment, and they give her one for, like, 2 hours later, that same day. And my wife was like, wait, you know, because they were there together.
Uh-huh.
They weren't there as two separate people, but they didn't know that. So, you know, when my ex, you know, confronted her about it, it's like, but you told me your next appointment wasn't for 2 weeks. She goes, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, it was she didn't like it. I didn't like it. It was good to get out. But,
so off to Norfolk you go, huh?
Yep. Go down to Virginia Beach, and the whole reason why I chose Norfolk is my daughter started doing gymnastics in Hawaii, and so she had a natural ability for it. She was really, really talented. So I chose, like, you know, I looked on, you know, all the bases that have, you know, submarine bases, which one has the best gym. So I chose Norfolk simply because it was the gym that was nearby was the best, you know, it was the most recommended out of all the other locations that we can go to. And anyway, so that's why I chose Norfolk.
So you were on the Norfolk for 3 years, huh? From 2010 to 2013, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. And when you guys went on deployments, or when you guys went out to sea, how long did you go out, and how long could you be under in a sub?
Oh, you can stay under as long as you have food. The only factor, because we make our own air, we make our own water. So the only thing we need to do is we need food. And so as long as we have food, we can stay down. We don't have to come up. We don't have to do anything. We can stay out. We can stay on station. The longest that I'd ever been out on station at one time was 62 days.
Uh-huh.
And I'm talking about like on station, like you're sitting there on mission. But that, I mean, we've been underway for a lot longer than that. But here's the easiest way I can talk about submarine duty and then how much you've gone. As the doc, you're also the atmosphere control officer because, you know, it's a closed atmosphere. Right?
Sure.
So every night we have this thing called CAMS, or Central Atmospheric Monitoring System. CAMS.
Okay.
And it's got a dial, and it has induction, you know, places all around the boat. So you can stand at this one spot, and you can check to see what the atmosphere is, what contains, you know, what's in the atmosphere on all the different parts of the sub. Mm-hmm. So whenever you get underway and you close the hatch, see here's the key thing is when you close the hatch, that's when it becomes a closed system.
Right.
All right? Unless you go back, you know, your surface and you open up the sail and stuff. But as soon as you close all the hatches and you dive, within 24 hours, that's when you have to start doing your atmosphere control report. And so, you know, the below decks watch is walking around and making notations every hour. And so at the end of the evening, after midnight, they will compile the day's reports, you know, numbers, into a single report, and then they will route that through me so I can review it and put up any kind of like recommendations that I might have. Like on my first boat, my CO liked to keep the oxygen levels at the very bare minimum. I mean, we were walking around, operating at like 15.1% oxygen.
There you go.
Whoa.
I mean, where everybody is like, you're dragging. There's not enough air and oxygen in the air to light a spark a match. You know, I mean, cooking, they literally they have a anyway, not going to get into all those kind of specifics, but I would write every day, recommend increasing O2 bleed rate to raise, O2 levels. And it's like, he just noted, but he kept it at the same spot, same thing. And, because, once you get to 14.9, people will literally just start passing out of their posts.
Right.
That's how bad it gets. And so people were having massive headaches all the time. People were just feeling run down.
Why did he do that? I must ask. I'm sure our listeners are going to ask, why did he want to keep it at 15%? Was there some benefit there, or was he just being an idiot?
Yes.
There is a benefit.
Both. I think it's both. Well, I think for him, now I don't know, okay? I do not know. This is all conjecture. This is just my thought process. Now, if you work out and you work out religiously, you work out every day, well, when the oxygen level gets down low, right, you're basically, it's just as if you're training at altitude. Okay? So the higher you go up, like UFC fighters, if they're fighting in like New Mexico or Colorado or something, well, they're going to want, or Mexico City, they're going to want to train someplace that's got high elevation so that their body can acclimatize to it, right?
Sure, yeah.
Because, the higher you go, the less oxygen there is, and then all of a sudden your body's got to start working. So the guys that continued to work out, and the CO was one of them. That's why I'm thinking, I've always thought of this was the reason, was you can build up your endurance, and as long as you keep going, you're fine. And as soon as we open up that hatch, I'm telling you, because when you go long periods of time underway on the stuff, as soon as we ventilate or we get, recirculate and get fresh air into the boat, it's like everybody's had, like, gave everybody speed. Everybody's bouncing in their step. Everybody's wide awake and chipper. I mean, because it's like your body's getting something that's been deprived for months. But anyway, so I think that maybe he kept it that low because whenever we got into port, your workouts would be so much better because you were used to doing the hard stuff on such low oxygen that when you're on the surface or if you're in normal atmospheric conditions, then all of a sudden, you feel like you've got rockets on your feet, or your lungs are as big as the building, you're breathing and you're just killing those workouts afterwards. So that was my opinion as to why he did it. But in reality, I think it's just because he liked being an asshole. I mean, this guy, the CEO of my first boat was unhinged a little bit. Like one time he was yelling at two of the officers in control so bad. I mean, just giving it to him so harsh that after he was done, he went into his stateroom and he slammed the door shut. And I went up to his stateroom with my blood pressure cuff and my stethoscope. And I knocked on the door and he went, "What?" And so I opened up the door. I said, "How you doing, sir?" And he went, "Oh, fuck off, Doc." And so I came in and I shut the door. I'm like, "That was quite a scene you just put out there in control." And he goes, "I don't want to hear this from you. Get out of my space." And I'm like, "Well, no. I think you and I are going to have a chat." So I made him, because he was on, he took high blood pressure medication, so I was really curious to know, how's your blood pressure looking like right now? So I sat there and I talked to him and I tried to calm him down and stuff, but he was just an asshole.
Right.
He was an asshole. But anyway, so that was my first boat. But the whole point of bringing this is like, when you're doing the atmosphere control report, right, every day, you're supposed to have one of those for every 24-hour period that you're underway. So the easiest, and we're required to retain those reports for 36 months, for 3 years. So I had binders for the 3 previous years from every single day that we were underway.
Sure.
So it was very easy for me to just count how many are in here. So over the 3 years that I had, we averaged between 270 and 280 days a year, every year, gone. Underway, you don't exist. Yeah, so when you're spending a grand total of 2.5 months at home every year, but it's not all at once. It's 2.5 months spaced out. And that's not just for deployments. That's just regular stuff. Because we used to call them East Packs, right? Because in Hawaii, we'd go and do operations with, ships and stuff off the west coast of the United States.
Sure.
And then we did stuff with Australians. We did stuff with Japan. Like I went to the submarine ball in Yokosuka, Japan in 2005. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I traded dolphins with a Japanese chief, or their version of a chief. I gave him my fish. He gave me his fish. Yeah. So it was like a 1-for-1 swap at the sub ball. I waited until he was leaving, or somebody was leaving towards the end, and I just walked out. I'm like, "Hey, do you speak English?" And he went, "Hi, yes." And so I was like, "Would you like to trade?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah." So we just traded dolphins. So that was kind of cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. I did that same thing in Spain. I was in Rota for a year with some Spanish Marines. Like, we traded covers or some shit like that, But
Like, out of my 25 years career in the Navy, the only time that I ever spent on board a surface ship was as an embarked Marine.
With that MEU, right? The 26th.
Yeah, with the 13th and the 26th MEUs.
Oh, those two, both of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So in 1996, it was the 13th MEU with 1-4 out of Camp Pendleton, and that was on the USS Tarawa. And then that's the 13th MEU. And then in 08 and 09, it was with 2-6 on the 26th MEU out of Lejeune on the USS Carter Hall. But I also finished the last on the USS San Antonio, because when we were coming back, we had one platoon of guys that was on the USS San Antonio, but that's where the FSSG, the Fleet Service Supports Group, you know, that's the ship that they were on. So they had a whole bunch, and their entire medical team was on that ship. And they did not want to do the post-deployment health assessments for our one platoon. So in the last month of the deployment with the Marines in 08 and 09, they cross-decked me from the Carter Hall. Once I finished doing all of our Marines post-deployment health assessments on the Carter Hall, they cross-decked me over to the San Antonio, and then I got to do all the post-deployment health assessments for all the Marines that belonged to us on that ship, and then finished the deployment on that ship, which was the San Antonio's maiden deployment. It was their very first deployment for that, you know, after getting commissioned.
Sure.
That was kind of nice.
Nice.
And when they flew us off in Ospreys, which kind of scared me a little bit, because when I was with my first Marine Corps unit, 1-4, and I was in the Helo company, you know, we flew everywhere, but it was at that point in time when they started first testing out the Ospreys, and they were just dropping out of the sky left and right. I mean, they were literally just crashing. Every other day was an Osprey crash. And, you know, our company was like, if one of those comes to pick up, just don't get in it.
A lot of the Marines I know say the same thing about those Ospreys,
like,
you know.
Like,
they were death traps.
Terrible when they first came out. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so on this last deployment with the Marines, you know, I get up to the flight deck because they're going to fly us off the ship over to Camp Lejeune, and it's an Osprey. And you know, I remember you know, getting underway, you know, or flying in the 53s and the 46s, and then you know, sometimes we get a Huey, and sometimes, you know, we get like the other little types of helicopters, but mainly we flew around in the 53s and 46s, the Sea Stallions and Sea Knights.
Those are different kind of helicopters.
Yeah, they're the ones with the two propellers
with
at
the
the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, the double propellers, the long, skinny ones. Yeah, those are the kinds that we would get in and, you know, fast rope either out of the side, out of the back, or there's a hole in the middle where they remove a piece of the deck plating, and it's called the hell hole. So you can fast rope out through the middle, or you can go straight out the door, or you can go straight off the ramp in the back.
Okay. Okay. So back when you were on the Norfolk, your last sub, did you guys ever do lock in, lock out things?
What do you mean?
Well, lock in, lock out, like SEAL teams and stuff like that.
Like dry dock shelters and stuff.
Yeah.
Like submersibles.
Not
on the boat. Not on my boats. There are specific boats that have those.
Oh, okay.
And they have one at every, you know, at least one. Many will be equipped with the, you know, so we can get you know, one of the submersibles to attach to us if needed, but only a few of them actually have the submersibles that are, you know, a part of the boat, you know, that deploys when the boat deploys. So no, not on my boats.
Okay.
I think the La Jolla, before it was deployed, it was one. But now it's like all the boats are, you know, getting a little bit newer. At least the classes have changed.
So then your final duty station was at Senior Sub IDC at Submarine Squadron 6?
Yep, right there in Norfolk.
And so you finished out in Norfolk.
Yeah. So when I got stationed on my first boat in Norfolk, I did the 3 years on there, and then I went to the squadron and became the, you know, one of the IDCs. But then eventually the senior IDC at Submarine Squadron 6 right there in Norfolk. So what we did with the squadrons is that we just basically maintain and insure and inspect and do all the stuff for all of those submarines in the squadron or in the water on the waterfront.
Okay.
So we have 2 doctors, like MDs, undersea medical officers. We call them UMOs, who are both dive and undersea medical officers. And, so we have 2 of those that work with the squadron. So they do all of, like, the physicals, or like if us on the boats, the docks on the boats need to get somebody seen that has needs more care than we're able to provide underway or on the boat, or when you're at sea, you're given license to basically treat patients as you need to treat your patients, because that's the only thing you can do. Right?
You're it, yeah.
But when you're in port, well, that's when you have your medical officers, you have your own pharmacy, so you don't use your boat stuff for anything.
Right, I understand
when you're underway,
that.
But that, a lot of the doctors would want to see your patients, for things, but also all of our physical exams and other requirements. That's what we have the docs for.
Okay.
So we had two doctors, and then I worked with one IDC when I first got there, and then he went to another boat, and then the reason why I did more than 24 years, I put in my request to retire, because my higher tenure was 24 years as a chief petty officer, and so I hit my 24-year mark in July of 2015.
Okay.
And so I put in my request to retire, sent off the message. But before I got it back, I went out to lunch with the Force Master Chief, the Submarine Force Master Chief for medicine. He and I were, over at Submarine Atlantic Fleet. And he and I had known each other for more than a decade. And, he just asked me if I wanted to go to lunch one day. I'm like, sure, man. So we go to lunch, and then as we're getting ready to pay our bills, he went, all right, let's talk about why we needed to come out today. I'm like, what, we didn't just come out just to shoot the shit and have a good time? And he went, and he looks at me and he went, Dan, I gotta fuck you. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. Okay, how am I getting screwed this time? And he's like, I have to extend you. And I tell him, like, you do know I'm retiring, right? I'm getting out because of higher tenure, not because I'm just, feel like getting out. And he went, I know. And then it's like, don't worry about it. That's not an issue. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And he went, but I need to extend you out. And so initially they wanted to extend me 6 months. And I'm like, okay. But it really sucked, because this is where you come in. Not you specifically, but Notre Dame, right?
Yes.
Notre Dame University?
Yes,
right down the street from y'all?
Yeah.
It's my favorite university, right?
All right.
I'm a huge Notre Dame football fan.
Okay.
Anyway, because I grew up in Hobart, Indiana for 9 years, so all of my sports teams, like I'm a diehard Cubs fan. If I were still into basketball, I would like the Bulls. I like the Bears. I'm a Chicago kind of person for sports and stuff, because that's where I was. So anyway, I had this one midshipman that was coming out to do like his 2 weeks underway on a submarine during the summer one year. And as I'm going through his record, I see that he's from the University of Notre Dame. And I'm like, huh. So I go out and I'm like, you're from Notre Dame? And he was like, yes, sir. And I'm like, well, I didn't know they have an ROTC program. And then he was, well, yes, we do. And so I looked it up, and there was a contact us. And so the thing that you always see wrong in health records for people that come from a non-military place that comes to, like submarine duty, is that they're all wrong. They always have the wrong physicals. They always have some disqualifying conditions. They never have their shit screened correctly. Right. And so I send an email to the NROTC program at Notre Dame University asking, hey, do you guys have anybody that does, can I just list it out all the things that have to be done in order to, run a medical program for the Navy, right? And I expected to get zero response. Like, I didn't expect to get, I thought that would just go in somebody's round file somewhere. But the very next day, I got an email from the executive officer at the NROTC program at Notre Dame University who said, well, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. And then attached was was a job posting, and their job posting was for basically everything that my email said. I mean, I was reading them and I'm like, wow, so yeah, they do have a position for that. And the guy that was currently filling it at that time was getting ready to retire. And so they were going to need to fill that position. So I had arranged for my post-Navy career was to be the medical representative for the NROTC program at the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana.
That's cool.
But, yeah, that would have been great. I would have absolutely loved it because I've got so much of my family that still lives there in northern Indiana.
Sure.
Right? I mean, my cousins, my mom's twin sister, you know, and her kids, my uncles, you know, I mean, it's great. And then I got taken to lunch by, you know, my buddy, the Force Master Chief, to tell me that I gotta fuck you. And so that whole entire thing went away.
Oh.
After that lunch thing. So, because the guy was gonna retire the month before I retired, right? And so they were willing to gap their billet for a month, you know, for me to, you know, come down and take it over.
Right, but you got extended for another.
6 months, and so they weren't gonna, you know, they couldn't gap their whole entire program for half a year.
Right.
So anyway, that went the way of the dodo.
So
in that time, the reason they had to extend me is because they didn't have anybody available to take the position of the guy that was currently, or who had been currently my partner at Squadron 6. Because he was going to another submarine. And then the guy that was supposed to come and relieve him got postponed like 5 months or something like that.
Wow.
You know, I got extended in a billet that was hard to do with 2 people. I got to do for myself for like the last 9 months that I was on active duty. Because of his billet being gapped, and then the guy that was supposed to come getting his stuff getting pushed back 5 more months. And then, so once he finally got there, he got there in like October of 2015. And then in November of 2015, we had a boat that was in the shipyard. It was the USS Maryland. It was a big, long missile boat, you know, the SSBNs. And anyway, their doc specifically did something that our doctor told him not to do, which is a no-no. If you get guidance from the doctor whose medical license you work under, you better follow their instructions. Well, sure. He decided that he knew better than the doctor, which he did not. And so I was forced to relieve him for cause because the medical officer, the doctor, had no faith. She lost all faith, and it's plainly obvious. Her instructions were to do A, and he decided to do B and C, and not tell her until the patient came in. And because, you know, she was seeing the patient with the guy on the boat.
Right.
And so the patient heard her tell him what she wanted him to do, but then he did something totally different. And when it didn't work, he came back and he went, "Can we try what you initially wanted? Because he did this instead." And she's like, "Wait, what?" So that's when we found out that he was just not following her direct instructions. So she filed the report of no confidence, and so we pulled his NEC, and who got to take the boat but me? And so I get to the Maryland, and it had already been in the yards it was getting ready to come out. It had just a few months until it was going to start doing sea trials. And so when I got in and I started looking through his programs and everything, he literally hadn't done anything the entire time that he was in the shipyard. His boat was at 8% medical readiness. And it was like, are you kidding me?
8%?
He had guys, 8%. He had 36 physicals that he had to do that were either going to be expired or were already expired that had to be done before they start doing sea trials. plus all of his programs that were mothballed, because in the yards, you use the shipyard's TLD program, so your ship's TLD program is kind of put down a bit. And they do for their nukes. They maintain their stuff for their nukes, but for the most part, he didn't do anything. Everything was just completely and utterly screwed. And so it was like working on his boat for the last, I took over November, December, and then January. So just under 3 months total time to try to get this boat ready to go into sea trials before they could get the new docks to come in. Because whenever a ship, one of those boats go into the shipyard, because they have a blue and a gold crew. But and each crew has their own dock, because it's literally a completely different crew for the same boat. You have a blue crew, and then you have a gold crew. And the boat is always out to sea. And what they'll do is they'll just fly the gold crew out to Diego Garcia to change over with the crew, with the blue crew, and then the blue crew will fly back home, and the gold crew will take the boat out, and then 3 months later, the blue gold, they'll just do the whole entire thing all over again.
So the whole crew rotates. The whole crew rotates.
Yeah, only on the ballistic missile submarines. So
Okay.
the really long ones, the one that carries the nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those, they have 2 crews, and the boats are continuously out to sea, and all they do is they fly the crews out to Diego Garcia or to wherever else they're going to be, but usually Diego.
Yeah. For those of our listeners.
Turnover.
Yeah. For our listeners, Diego Garcia, where he's talking about, is an island off the coast of India, right?
It's in the Indian Ocean, but it is so small that if you're looking at a map, you will not see it.
Right.
You'll have to zoom in and zoom in
Yeah.
and zoom in, and then try to find this little speck of beauty. Really, it's an absolutely beautiful little horseshoe-shaped island. It's I got videos and pictures of it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Someday,
yeah.
I'll show them to you, but they're really nice.
Nice.
But anyway, but whenever they go into the yards, or the shipyard, which is what this boat had been doing for the last couple of years, they whittle the 2 crews down to 1. And then they don't recrew, don't build up the crews again until they're getting ready to go back out to sea. So that is the time when I took over.
Okay.
So instead of having a crew of about 140, I had a crew of 310.
Wow.
Because I had to take care of both the blue and the gold crew, both attached to the boat at the same time. And it wasn't my boat. It wasn't my job. I was the squadron guy. So I worked on this boat until I got it ready, and they got the blue and the gold crew docks. So both docks reported at the same time, and then I got to have a turnover with both of them, and then, with their chain of command, and then at that point, when I finally got to go back to Submarine Squadron 6, I got an email that told me that my EAOS, or my end of obligated service, my retirement day, was in 5 days. And I'm like, wait, I thought I was going to be able to, to extend out again. But they denied it. They denied when my command tried to extend it, because I had my left shoulder operated on in September of 2015, and I was supposed to have my right shoulder operated on in December of 2015, but I had been on the boat taking care of the Maryland, and I couldn't get that second surgery done. And so I still needed to have surgery on my right shoulder, and the Navy was telling me, no, you've got 5 days until you're retired. That's it. Done. And when my commands would send messages and, try to call and put in requests to try to do it all the way up through the, sub-Atlantic fleet, and every one of them told me no. And so I got a little mad, because in my career, I had always done whatever the Navy needed me to do in order to complete the mission. So it gets to this point. I literally had 3 days from the day that I turned over the Maryland back to their new docks.
Yeah.
I had 3 days, until I was out of the Navy. Just gone. See it. Told me that, you can get your other shoulder operated on, through the VA. you can do, that it was just done. And so I literally was at the end of my rope, and I was pissed. And I'm thinking, well, what the hell are they going to do? They're going to make me retire? So I wrote a letter explaining everything that I had done for the military and what I had to give up in order to help the military. Like that whole entire, post-deployment or post-active duty, my retirement gig at Notre Dame. I put that in there. I said, that was set. It was all set. My dream job, and it's gone because of this. My right shoulder, I waited over 10 years to get my shoulders operated on, and when I finally get one done, when I'm going to get the other one, because of the Navy, I had to go and operate on the submarine as the dock again for something that wasn't my responsibility. I mean, it was, but in a roundabout way, because I was a squadron guy. You know what I mean? But anyway, so I sent this letter, and I sent it to the entire detailing, the detailer at the Navy Personnel Command in Tennessee. Yeah. I sent it to Submarine Atlantic Fleet Admiral. I sent it to Atlantic Fleet Medical. I sent it to my entire chain of command. I let everybody have it. And and then of course, like my Squadron 6, like my command master chief, he and I were like oil and water because he was an asshole, and I call him out for being an asshole. Yeah. But, he came in and he starts ramming me, and he's like, "What the fuck? This kind of letter that you sent? You know what the hell?" And I'm like, going, "What are you gonna do? Make me retire? It's already happening. What? Yeah. And so evidently, the way that it worked is that the admiral at Navy Personnel Command, he saw it because I sent it to everybody. When I tell you I sent it to everybody, I sent it to everybody. His reply, he called, the submarine Atlantic Fleet, surgeon, who was our for submarine Atlantic Fleet, and he asked him, and he's like, "So, is everything in this letter? Is what he's saying legit? I mean, is all this true?" And they're like, "Yeah, every single word." And they're like, "Man, that's all right. Tell him he's got 90 days." So they extended me out another 90 days. So in that time, I was able to get my right shoulder operated on, and I was able to schedule and plan for a retirement ceremony because I wasn't going to get any of those things. So
then that puts your retirement date out to April 30th.
Yep, April 30th of 2016. I was supposed to retire, and on July 30th of 2015 was my higher tenure date, but I didn't end up retiring until
April 30th.
April 30th.
Did you have a retirement ceremony?
I did. I had it at the chapel on the base in Norfolk.
At the chapel, huh?
Yeah.
How was that? Was it really emotional for you? I know a lot of people when they go to retirement ceremonies, it's pretty emotional thing.
No, I think at that point it was just...
You're ready to go.
I was scared, but I was ready. Because
right.
I got to tell you, the military that I joined doesn't even resemble the Navy that I retired from.
Really?
I remember in Panama as a deck seaman, the maintenance department, we would go to lunch together, and we'd go to like a little restaurant that was on the beach because it was owned by one of the guys that was working in our command. Right? He was a Panamanian dude, and he had his own little beach restaurant. But anyway, we'd go there for lunch, and we'd all have a beer or two. Like I remember the first time that it happened. I'm like, "Oh, so are we off for the rest of the day?" And Master Chief says he's pouring my beer. He goes, "Hell no, we're at lunch." And then he just sets the picture down, and we're drinking, and we only had one to two beers each. Right. That was it. And then we go back to work.
Right.
And then I remember days like I said, we had a 100-foot boat, we had 3 50-foot boats, we had 4 36-foot boats, right? So we would take those periodically. We would take those off the coast in the Pacific Ocean to what we call, there was this island that was what you call Flat Rock Island, but it was literally just like a round island that was flat on top, and it had one little inlet, kind of like a beach. Looked like a hat, like a Pac-Man, but just a rounded mouth instead of like a pointy one.
Okay.
And we would just, throw off the anchor right off the coast of that little island, and we'd cook out all day while we would be in the water with our scrapers, scraping off the barnacles and everything off the sides of the ship. So we're doing vessel maintenance.
Right.
We're having a party and having fun while we're doing it.
And you're grilling out and drinking beer.
Yeah, exactly. We've got coolers of beer everywhere. And I remember at the end of the day, because we've been out in the sun, we've been cleaning the boats, and then we do snorkeling and everything, and had a big 55-gallon drum, grill that had been strapped down to the back of one of the 50-footers. And anyway, nice. So when we're getting ready to ride back into the boat, I was drinking, and so the master chief came in, and I pushed my beer away from me, right?
Uh-huh.
And because I'm the young kid, I'm driving the 50-foot boat back to the Panama Canal and pulling it at Rodman Naval Station. And so the master chief comes in and he sees my beer can, he picks it up.
You still there?
You there?
Yeah, man, I lost you.
Yeah, I could still hear you though. I kept talking. I was still talking because I could hear you perfectly fine.
Yeah.
You kept asking me, I'm like, yeah, I'm here. Hello. So
yeah.
What's the last thing you heard?
The last thing I heard was you were driving the boat back in, and you had a beer, and the chief or something came on in.
Yeah, so he came in, and it was the command master chief.
Okay.
And so he saw, he saw my beer can, and he just, he picks it up, swishes around, sees that it's empty, and just kind of like gives me a shitty look and like walks outside of the, the pilot house.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking to myself, fuck, I'm just screwed. And he comes back, and he puts a beer down in front of me, opens it, and then spins it around to me, and then sits in the chair next to me, and he starts quizzing me on piloting skills. All right, Lyons, so if we have a man overboard on the starboard side, which way are you turning the wheel? I'm like, are you kidding?
Wow.
So, but that's the Navy that I joined.
What was the Navy like when you got out?
Retired from?
Yeah.
Every tradition, every little thing that ever made the Navy fun was totally stripped away. You couldn't say anything. Everything was political. Everything was just, it was terrible, man. It was like, I always said I'll stay on active duty as long as I'm still having fun.
Right.
And then once you get up to beyond retirement, then you're just thinking, like, well, if I could put it out for just a couple more years, I can get, this much more percentage of my retirement.
Yeah.
When I retired, I was happy.
Yeah.
I was extremely happy to be retired.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I got one more question for you. I'm just assuming you're a shellback?
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you do that on a sub?
Both, actually. I did it on the surface ship and a submarine.
So the first one you did
was on a submarine.
Was on a sub.
The first one I did was on a submarine.
Okay, so now when you shellbacked on your first submarine, did you go through the hazing rituals like they do on a ship?
Yeah. Except for that, it's not as big and not as open, so it's more like you go from location to location. When you're on the surface ship, even the area between the locations is part of the thing, right? Uh-huh. But on a sub, it's so small and it's so confined that, we were able to make like the torpedo room and then the cruise mess, but you're not doing any of that stuff in the engine room.
Right.
You do not play games in the engine room on a submarine. You just don't do that.
Right.
Everything that you need to do, anything that's kind of fun, is done, in the forward part, or like we call it, the people part of the boat.
Right, where the galley is and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So where all the people can be.
Well,
but you don't want to do all that stuff in the engine room, but it was cool. I mean, it was like, I crawled in, face first into our torpedo tube and went all the way down to the very end to the outer doors and feel how cold they are because the water on the other side of this is quite crazy.
Yeah.
And then, they closed the torpedo room, or not the room, but the door.
With you in it?
Tube door. Yeah, with me in it. You know, and I told them, you know, they said, you know, when you just crawl in as far as you're comfortable. Well, me, I was comfortable all the way, so I went all the way to the very end. And it was like, Doc, you don't have to go that far. I'm like, well, you said to go as far as I'm comfortable. I was like, oh, you're comfortable all the way up there then, huh? Tell me about this. And so they just shut the damn door and dogged that thing down. You're like, wow, just don't flood the tube. Don't equalize.
You're on the toolbox of tears now, right?
No, I'd just be just a bloody mess and just blow up. And then, you know,
yeah, right.
If they equalize the pressure, then, yeah, this can be really ugly real quick.
Done.
It'll probably happen so fast that I won't feel it. So
right, right.
But yeah, I get to do things like that. And then second time I did it was on a surface ship, and then I did it again on my second submarine too. So I got my shell back. I did it on my first boat, and then I got to be a part of the crew on the USS Carter Hall when I was doing that deployment, and then the Norfolk as a part of that boat. So,
well, that's awesome, man. Chief Dale Lyons, it certainly sounds like you had one storied career.
Well, there's a whole bunch more. It's just a lot of it we can't talk about.
Sure, I completely understand. Well,
yeah, but wild and varied. Got to see a lot of different things. It's like, you know, I tell people, it's like I've circumnavigated the planet 4 times, twice on a submarine and twice on a surface ship. I visited about 29 or 30 different countries, and I got paid to do the whole thing. So it's really cool. I've met a lot of wonderful people, and I've met a lot of shitty people too. But the good people are way outnumber the bad.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Never have really had any issues. Do the hard stuff.
Mm-hmm. So, challenge yourself.
You know, what's that?
You wanted to challenge yourself, huh?
Well, yeah. When the chief detailer at Camp Pendleton told me about submarine, you know, because the way that one went is like, so why do you want to be an IDC? And I told him, and I said, you know what? Because I'm not conceited, but you know, it's because I'm the shit, and I know I do a really good job. I care about my people, and you know, I want a job I want a position to where everything either rests on my laurels, right? So it's either I'm going to sink or swim. Yeah.
Sure. That's awesome, man. Well, listen, man, thanks for coming on and talking to us.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
We're sure we'll see each other again at some point in time.
Absolutely, man. And obviously we'll be in touch with you a little bit more after that. But that's going to wrap it up here today, folks. So I hope this was enjoyable for people. And don't forget our poker run, August 9th. Come on out if you're in the area. And until next time, Semper Fi, out.